Welcome to this week's edition of The Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, and joined as always by Dick Corbett, head coach for Notre Dame Football, Brian Kelly. It's now time for the game breakdown. Coach, great game for you guys against Virginia. First drive, 11 plays, 54 yards, turnover on downs after the quarterback sneak, but I thought that really established an aggressive tone you had throughout the entire game.
Yeah, it was a great drive, and again, you want to finish those drives off, especially when you're on the road, because you want to start fast. And I thought, we did a lot of really good things there, and we didn't finish it out the right way. But again, it set a good tone for the way we were going to play the rest of the day.
First defensive series, you got a 3-and-out. The story, obviously, there was no Brennan Armstrong. So from a coaching standpoint, how'd that affect the game plan, and what'd you like on that first series?
Well, we were prepared for, whether they were going to go Wildcat or they're going to play Wolford, which they did, and they ran their offense through him. So we were prepared no matter what they were going to do, and I thought we did a really good job relative to the preparation.
So you get the ball back, and then you face a 4th and 1. You had the field goal unit out there. We talked last week about that chart that you use. You take the timeout and decide to go for it. What went through your guys' minds as to bring the field goal team off and go for it on 4th and 1?
It's early in the game. You have enough timeouts that you can use one there if you don't like the decision you made, and I just felt like at that situation where it was on 4th down, that it was really a go situation. And so I used the timeout, rethought it. We had a good play in mind, and we called our best running play, and Kyron Williams was one-on-one with the safety and ran through the tackle, and obviously we picked up the key first down.
On the next play, Michael Mayer gets into the end zone. He had a great game for you guys. Has seen a lot of targets, maybe not as much production the last few weeks. This week, that was not the case. He was in. What'd you see on that play?
Well, it was a one-on-one matchup, and Jack Cohn threw a great ball. It was really well covered, but we knew we would get a one-on-one matchup. Jack threw a great ball. Mike makes the great catch, and we're in the end zone.
Next defensive series, another 3-and-out, and a guy I want to hear you talk about is Bo Bauer. Led your team in tackles this game, stepping up with, again, those injuries you alluded to, but he's just been so solid, it seems like, throughout his career, and this week it really showed.
Yeah, Drew's out, and so Bo gets much more of an opportunity, and Bo's obviously been such an important part of our success here, and he gets now the opportunity to be out there every snap, and he took advantage of it. He was active, he was around the football, and he made a lot of plays for us, and it was great to see.
So the offense got the ball back, leading 7-0. I have to ask you now, 3rd down and 2, Logan Diggs, the freshman, with one of the more impressive athletic feats we've seen all season when he hurdled the defender. What went through your mind as you saw that on the sideline?
Wow. It was pretty impressive, and it looked effortless, which was even more impressive. He's a football player first and foremost. He's not a guy that's going to just do things like that unless he feels like he can gain a competitive advantage. He's not a showboater or a highlighter, but he felt like he could put himself in a better position, and he did, and he was able to get up over the defender and pick up some more yardage. But a very, very impressive running back.
Later on that drive, Braden Lenzy got in for the touchdown. There was so much talk throughout the week, obviously unfortunate that Avery Davis is out for the year with the ACL, so the receiving core had to step up, and I thought Braden was one of those guys for you.
Really impressed with Braden's play. It was tough, it was gritty. He got some of the tough plays that receivers need to make accomplished for us, and picking up the touchdown in that situation was one where he really had to exert himself, and I was really happy for the way he played.
14-0 at this point. The defense, again, gets another turnover on downs. I'm going to ask you about the Ramon Henderson interception later, but he got a sack on this drive. They then went to a trick play on 4th down. What was the key on that series for your defense?
Well, just eyes, awareness. We told them, look, they're going to go for it on 4th down. You have to be aware of all these situations, punt fakes, all of these things, and our guys did a really good job of staying focused and locked in one play at a time, and that's why it's a fun team to coach, because they don't take a play off. They stay locked in, they stay focused every single play.
Next ensuing offensive possession, again, 9 plays, 80 yards. This is when you put it to a 3-score game, and it seems like weekly we talk about a great Kyron Williams run. This touchdown run, again, another spectacular performance from him.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, this play bounces outside, makes a couple of guys miss, and it's just all effort and want to and desire to get to the pylon, and Kyron does it again. And, it just goes to who he is. Here's a guy he had a severe sinus infection during the week, headaches, wasn't able to really function well on Thursday or Friday, but answers the call on Saturday. He's just a great teammate.
Up 3 scores now, 21-0. And again, the defense comes up with the big play, the Ramon Henderson interception. Talk me through that play. We might see it in Irish Intel later, but just a really nice defensive play by a guy who saw the field because of those injuries.
Yeah, so we were showing a 2-deep look. So the quarterback was a little bit confused in terms of what he was seeing, because Ramon actually comes all the way across the field and doubles up on this play and becomes the guy that gets the deflection. And so the range is what really stands out here. And he's going all the way across the field to make this play. Obviously Ramon has that length and can make up obviously a lot of that ground. So it was a great interception.
At this point, when you went into the locker room at halftime, it felt like you'd really taken the crowd out of the game. You did a good job of taking ownership of the game. What was the message in the locker room to go out for that second half?
Consistent application of our process. In other words, you don't do it just for 2 quarters. You got to do it for 4 quarters. And now, we're going to be challenged here in the second half, especially this drive in the third quarter, because they get the football. And, they drove the football down, got the field goal, but that was key for us to make sure we kept them out of the end zone.
Defense had more great performance this week, right? No touchdowns allowed for the second straight week. Rylie Mills is the guy we talked about earlier that got the game ball, had one of his sacks early in the third quarter. Just what stuck out from him? What have you seen him do that's allowed him to evolve to this point?
Well, he's long, he's athletic, he's physical, he's really strong as a player. But I just think his length, he just keeps playing. He's got a great motor. And when you have that length and you play, to that trait, you got a chance to get to the quarterback, and he does.
Let's talk about the 4th touchdown. Jack Cohn and Kevin Austin, I think, have a really good rhythm set up, especially when they push the ball down the field. The throw from Jack to Kevin, what did you like on that play, and how did it look on film?
Well, the ball was going to go to Mike Mayer. Mike was doubled on the play, and immediately Jack saw the double. So when they double out against Mike, Kevin's going to get one-on-one coverage. And that's where you give great balance in your offense. He saw the one-on-one coverage, immediately went to Kevin, and Kevin made a great play. The ball was well thrown, too, because it was one-on-one coverage, but it needed to get over the top. A back shoulder throw would not have worked in that situation, and Kevin made a great catch.
Late in this game, it was 28-3. You're able to get even more freshmen, more reps for your guys. How valuable is a game like this when you can get some guys into that environment late in the game to develop them as they go along throughout their careers?
Yeah, it was great. We played 55 of the 60, there was 68, 69 guys on the trip, so that were actually going to play. So, we got 80% of the guys, 85% of the guys in the game. So it's really important that these guys get a chance to play, and it was fun to see them out there.
Every true road game this year, you guys have played in prime time, and you've come away with a victory. I just want to know, as a coach, how satisfying has that been? This one, probably the heart rate wasn't as high, but how has it felt to just see your team perform week in and week out in these big primetime matchups?
The bright lights that's one of the reasons why you come to Notre Dame, to play in those kinds of those matchups. And so every time we've been in that kind of environment, our guys rise up to the occasion. And again, I think that's why, when you come to Notre Dame, you get these opportunities to shine, and this group certainly has.
You're listening to The Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. Welcome back to The Brian Kelly Show. It's time for this week's installment of Irish Intel, presented by TireRack.com. Coach, let's look at the second touchdown of the game. Braden Lenzy gets in. Really interesting play design you guys had.
Yeah, so, we're trying to move the pocket here a little bit, and we want to get the ball to Braden Lenzy. So we've motioned him into this slot position back into the short field, but we're going to bring him underneath because it's man coverage, and we're going to try to bring a lot of traffic and try to free him out. So you can see if you started, we bring him back underneath. You can see they got to try to trail him. 14's got him, and it's got to come all the way across, and by the time he gets there, it's just too late. So anytime you have, man-to-man coverage down here, you're trying to bring players in different positions and force them into a traffic jam. And you can see in this instance right here, Braden gets the football, and there's just so much traffic there, it makes it difficult for them to get back to the offensive player here, and the defender doesn't have a chance to get to him.
Okay, Coach, this is the 4th touchdown of the game. Jack Cohn hits one of his favorite targets, Kevin Austin, for the touchdown.
Yeah, so we're motioning Mike Mayer right here. He is the slot. You see him motioning, and we're trying to see if it's man or zone. We see that it's man, and we're expecting one-on-one, but they both double out Mike Mayer. So immediately, Jack's got to go one-on-one to Kevin because in this instance, he can't go into double coverage. So he turns down Mike Mayer, and you can see when he gets the football here, he looks real quick and goes immediately to the one-on-one situation. And you can see Kevin does a great job beating his defender.
So just to be clear, the thought process here for Jack is the second he sees man, he knows that if there's no safety over the top, he's got Kevin one-on-one.
He's going Kevin one-on-one because you can see right here, they actually blow the coverage. George is the inside. Nobody covers George. And George is like, what about me? Sorry, George, you weren't part of the read. We're just going to have to add George Takis to the read now because they're so concerned about, Mike Mayer and doubling him up in this situation. We'll have to add George to the read.
It's time now for this week's Look Ahead segment. And as always, we are joined by Bill Reese for this final installment of the season. Bill, thanks for taking some time this week and throughout the year. I want to talk about the Virginia game first before we get a chance to look at Georgia Tech. 28-3. This is the second week in a row that Notre Dame has not allowed a touchdown to an opponent. To me, it was one of the most impressive results of the year in prime time, a night game down there in Charlottesville. What were your big takeaways?
Well, I think the team was really focused. We talked about it all week, and I think, the defense came right out, and you could see that right off the bat that, they were ready for whatever Virginia was going to throw at us. And then offensively, we scored 3 of the first 4 times we had the ball. So really both offense, defense really came out ready to play, and the team in general was really focused.
The thing that stuck out to me watching it defensively, we'll start on the defensive side of the ball, is just how much depth is starting to emerge within this roster. Rylie Mills got the game ball, and that was because a couple guys up front were battling an illness. But to have someone like that in his second year step up and perform the way he did, what does that indicate about the depth of this team now as we move into November?
Well, I think there's really good depth at all 3 levels now of the defense, and I think you're starting to see it. You get guys prepared in September and October, and as the season moves on, when their opportunity presents itself, they're ready to step in. And in Riley's case, that was very obvious that, he was ready to play. He's played, a fair amount of snaps during the year anyway, but with the move out to defensive end and really good, opportunities that presented themselves on Saturday night, he took advantage of it. And, we're seeing the same at linebacker. We're seeing the same thing back in the secondary where young players are getting an opportunity to get in there, and they've been well prepared leading into these opportunities.
I was going to ask about one of those guys in the secondary, Ramon Henderson, who had a sack and that big interception. We actually talked to Coach Kelly about it earlier on the show. Really an interesting play where he came out of his safety spot in cover 2 and ran across to make the pick. But there's been so much talk, obviously, with Kyle Hamilton unable to play due to that injury, that the secondary might be vulnerable. And between him and DJ Brown and some others, they've really stepped up, I think, and answered the call when maybe a lot of people weren't sure they had that in them.
Well, Ramon is a perfect example of a guy that has been brought along by the coaches at a, very good pace, but they're grooming him to play a variety of different positions. And he really showed his versatility. He's done a nice job at corner. He's long, he's fast. He's moved into nickel. He's done a nice job there. And then he took the next step moving into safety, and he showed his range, ball skills. And for a guy that was a wide receiver in high school, he's shown a lot of physicality tackling. So, he's a bright young prospect, and he's getting his chance to get on the field, and he's doing real well.
One more guy I wanted to highlight on the defense before we focus on the offensive side was Bo Bauer, who led the team in tackles. He's been around now for a while, and Notre Dame fans are used to seeing him on special teams, but getting the opportunities that he has this year at linebacker, he's really shined a few different times this year, and he's a veteran of this roster. To see him perform the way he has, what kind of tone does that set for the entire team, knowing that if they put in the work, they can perform the way he has in big spots?
Well, his toughness, his aggressiveness, his football IQ, they're off the charts. And he really does set a tone when he's out on the field, whether it's at linebacker or on special teams. And a year ago, he played a lot in the sub packages and nickel. He's an excellent blitzer, very smart in coverage. He's an extremely valuable football player for us, and we're a much better team because of him. He's very versatile and very valuable.
Let's look at the offensive side of the ball. Jack Cohn maybe didn't put up the biggest numbers as far as yardage was concerned, but he threw 3 touchdowns. I thought he had a really calm, a poised performance against Virginia. And as you said, orchestrated those 3 scoring drives early in the game that really, put the game almost out of reach before halftime. What did you like from Jack on Saturday night?
Well, Jack's accuracy has just been extremely impressive. He throws the ball on time. He's getting it out quicker. He has a real nice feel for the receivers, and the timing has really been, really good all year. But it's just in the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's gotten to a next level. And I think his protection has gotten better. Jack sees the field very well. And then he, like I said, he throws the ball on time, accurately. He's really been playing well the last 5 weeks.
Seems like every week we have another highlight run from Kyren Williams. This week, the touchdown run really put an exclamation point on that drive, but so consistent, the 14 carries for 70 yards. Another great performance by Kyren. He just seems to be rolling as the season goes along.
He's a great football player. He can do everything you want him to do. You want the ball in his hands when the game's on the line, or if you need a first down. On that 4th and 1, there was no hesitancy. He saw a crack, he took it, broke a tackle, almost scored on that play. But he's just such a clutch performer, a guy that you really, the value that he brings to the football team as a runner, blocker, receiver, returner, really just a top football player.
It has been fun to watch him all season. The other running back, Logan Diggs, maybe had the most breathtaking play I've seen in a long time when he hurdled that defensive back along the far sideline late in the first quarter. He also, I think, averaged around 7 yards per carry. He does not look like a freshman at all, Bill. He is really ahead of the curve when he comes to running backs. What have you liked about Logan Diggs, and what excites you about not just the rest of this year, but his future?
Well, he's very natural, and he has a real feel, along with vision, patience. He's strong. He's a 212-pound back that can really, move the pile, break tackles. He's got excellent feet. And the other thing that really hasn't shown up as much, he can really catch the football, soft hands. He's grown up in a hurry. He is a great complement to the other backs that we have, in the backfield. So, he's growing every week, and he's becoming a big part of the offense as well.
Last guy I wanted to highlight on the offensive side of the football is Braden Lenzy. There's a lot of talk with Avery Davis going out, unfortunately, last week, the receiving core having to step up. And throughout Braden's career, I think he's been maybe labeled as a deep threat target or a speedster, which he certainly is. But I thought he made a couple of really big catches during big spots in the first half, one resulting in a touchdown that weren't necessarily those take the top off plays, but just really sound fundamental routes. To see him step into that void left by Avery Davis, how proud does that make a coaching staff to see him make those strides?
Well, they were really excited for Braden, and they were really excited for what he brought to the game. And you're right. He didn't, just blow the top off the coverage. He was making sliding catches. He was diving for the end zone to score. He was stiff-arming defenders at the end of his run on a reverse. He was very, very productive on Saturday night. We certainly hope it continues, and he has a lot of ability, and he's in a good spot right now, and we just got to keep him involved.
Before we move on to Georgia Tech, the one thing I just wanted to point out, I pointed this out with Coach Kelly as well. The 3 true road games this season, Bill, were all during night time for prime time windows, and the way Notre Dame performed with a couple of comeback wins or late game wins against Florida State and Virginia Tech, and then a big exclamation point win against Virginia. To me, it's really been impressive to see them show up in prime time and perform the way they have. How impressive is that to the coaching staff?
Well, it's a real test for the character of your football team, for their concentration, their focus to go on the road, play at night. You're sitting around the hotel all day, and other teams are playing and other scores are coming in, and it's easy to get distracted. It can drain you. But our team, like I said, they were really focused, ready to play Saturday night. It was a good environment to play in. The weather was great. There was a lot of excitement. in the crowd, but the players as a group, they're playing for one another. They know that they're having a special season and they want to continue it and they want to finish it on a high note.
All right, let's talk about the Yellow Jackets. The record doesn't pop off the screen, just 3-7, but hearing Brian Kelly talk to the media today, he was quick to point out they've been in a lot of close games. They're probably a little bit better than that 3-7 record may indicate. So as you guys have begun to prepare for them, what sticks out and what challenges do they pose you guys for Saturday?
Well, they're a dangerous team because they have talent and they have good players. And, it's like anything else. They're young in some spots. They've been not as consistent as they would like to be. But, that happens when you're playing, a freshman quarterback or a sophomore quarterback or, some young players, throughout your offense and defense. But they're very dangerous. They have, one of the premier players in the country in Gibbs, the running back that is second in the country in total or in all-purpose yardage. He can return kicks like he did last week. He had a 98-yard touchdown against Boston College. He can catch the football. He is extremely fast. He's got great power and finishing ability. So with a guy like him, it's just getting him the ball. That's what they're going to try to do because he's a home run hitter. And with that guy in the lineup, you've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready for him on every play.
Let me ask you about preparing for him, because what stuck out to me is that he leads the team in rushing and receiving. And you mentioned the skill set he has. I was watching some of his highlights before we did this. He does just kind of pop off the screen and take your breath away at times. But throughout the year, Notre Dame's had to prepare for some really big number one receiving targets. This is obviously a key player you guys have to focus on, but he's not going to be working from receiver. He might be in the backfield. He's obviously a receiving threat as well. So from a coaching perspective, how does that change the way you have to prepare to neutralize someone like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's coming from a different spot in the formation?
You just really have to know where he is on every play. You have to know where he's lining up, if he's going in motion, what side of the formation he's going to be on, what tendencies will go with that. But, again, they're creative on how they want to get him the ball, whether it's, down the field, out of the backfield, on screens, draws. They're going to do a lot of different things to try to get him the football and try to get him in space because he's very elusive when he's out one-on-one on defenders.
On the other side, defensively, what kind of scheme will they be running? What can Notre Dame fans expect to possibly be concerned about defensively when they go up against Georgia Tech on Saturday?
Well, they're very multiple. And the big thing that jumps out is they play a lot of players, probably the most players that we will see on defense. They will rotate in a wave of defensive linemen. They'll play 8, 9, 10 defensive linemen during the course of a game. They have good linebackers, guys that can run. This is a really long football team. They're tall and long in the secondary. A couple of their corners are 6'2" plus. So they take advantage of their size and overall athletic ability. So they've got the pieces, and it's just a matter of, hey, we're going to have to, they're going to have to play more consistently than they have in the past. But, they've shown it at times that they can really turn it on.
Bill, the last thing I want to ask you before I let you go for the rest of the season is actually more of a big picture question about this Notre Dame team. They're 9-1 right now. We won't get a chance to talk as they move towards the postseason. But for me, watching it this year, I can't remember, and this is my 6th year being around the team, seeing a Notre Dame football team improve so linearly throughout the year. And Brian Kelly said, I think early in the season during some of his media availability, like, this team's going to be a lot better in November than September. And they have absolutely proven that. So just from your vantage point or the staff's vantage point, to see a team, I think, consistently improve throughout the year, what kind of reaction does that get from the coaching staff? And what kind of excitement does that build for the rest of this season? And then obviously down the road for the next couple seasons with some of these guys coming back?
Well, the improvements really happen in all phases: offense, defense, the kicking game. All three have grown as the season has gone on. And, I think, the first thing is there's been great leadership by the older players on the team, and they've taken real steps to make sure that this is a special season. There's been great leadership throughout the year, and then the young players have taken advantage of opportunities and have watched and learned and have grown. And, it takes everybody in all phases to make this kind of improvement. And it's really been good to see that players have invested. It's important to them. Winning is certainly important, but going through the process, doing things the right way, they've had a really good model to follow, and it pays off because the process has been, really, really beneficial for the players.
Well, Bill, I appreciate you joining us this week and the last 9 weeks as well. It's been fun to watch this team develop. Like you said, hopefully there's 2 more regular season wins in front of the Irish and then a postseason win as well. But it was great talking to you this year, and we'll hopefully talk to you again next year.
That'll be great. It's been an exciting season so far.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's edition of Irishography. So, Rylie, great performance from you against Virginia, a couple of sacks. What enabled you to break through in this game for Notre Dame?
I think it was just my teammates helping me out. I couldn't have done it without, Myron was helping me on the sidelines. Even though he was sick, he was out there cheering me every step of the way. So I just want to give a big shout out to my teammates for helping me out the most, because I couldn't have done anything without them.
Let's talk about post-game. You got the game ball. I just want to know, what does it feel like when you get the game ball and you get a chance to celebrate in the locker room with your teammates?
Yeah, when I got the game ball, it was surreal to hear, Coach say my name and have all my teammates cheer me on like that. It's something that, as I came to Notre Dame, that was a goal of mine to get a game ball, and for it to come true and really see it happen was out of this world, and I couldn't believe it. So it was probably one of the best experiences of my life, and I was super excited about it.
Let's talk about the plane now. I know you got the upgrade to first class. Coach Elston made good on his deal because you got a couple of sacks and the game ball. Talk me through how that all went down and how you held him to his word.
Yeah, so it was the week of the game. We were talking about the game, and we were kind of talking about some of the protection with the O-line, and we're like, we really think we can capitalize on this O-line. So our coach was like, all right, look, if anyone gets over 2 sacks, you get my seat on the plane ride home. So everyone in the D-line room looked around, we're like, oh, are you serious? I got my first one, I was like, oh, that was sick. That was a really cool moment. And I got my second one, and I looked around and I was like, did that just happen? I got 2 sacks. And we came to the sideline, some people were like, oh, we don't know if the first one was a true sack. Because my coach, for a second, he was like, well, we don't know. We don't know the box.
Maybe it's a half sack.
Yeah, maybe it's a half. So when I got that third one, I just turned around and looked right at my coach. You could see me pointing right at him. And I was like, that's your seat right there.
Let's go back a couple years when you were making your decision to come to Notre Dame. You just told me that a big thing you were looking forward to was doing what you did last week, getting the game ball. But just as a whole, what brought you to this place? What attracted you to play football and go to school at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the people here. When I did it, my other visits to other schools, everyone here was super nice. They were all good people, and they all wanted to help each other. And I think now, especially in today's world, that's something that's really valuable. And so I think, my time here, I think that's something that's been the biggest reason why I love Notre Dame, because everyone here is rooting it on, and there's definitely a lot of places where someone gets sick or someone goes down. It's not that same animosity you have on the team. That's everyone helping each other out. So I think that's just at the end of the day, that's what Notre Dame is, and it's you got your teammates there all helping you out, and you got the whole school around you helping you out. So that was just one of the biggest parts for me, and it's still stuck out to this day.
Defense has really come along strong here recently. You haven't allowed a touchdown in the last 2 games. I'm just curious, from your standpoint, with 2 regular season games left, what's the key for you guys to keep this momentum going into the end of the regular season?
Yeah, I think, to keep it going the next 2 games, it's all about we got to keep applying pressure. I think the last 2 games we did a great job of, playing to our best ability and playing to what we know we can play to. And I think if we just keep that rolling and we just don't take our foot off the gas, and there's no reason why we can't continue to be great on defense.
Rylie, appreciate the time. Thanks.
Awesome, appreciate it.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's final check-in.
Morning, Brian.
Morning, John Finneran.
How are you, sir?
Great, thanks.
Well, could you give us an update on your team's general health, injuries, or and battling the flu? And also, the second question I have for you is how difficult is it to prepare for one of 2 quarterbacks that you might see this week in Georgia Tech?
Yeah, we're still battling through the flu. We had a number of guys out on Tuesday. The guys are doing the best they can. Doc Leisler and Rob Hunt are, working overtime. We had a bunch of guys out on Tuesday. We got a bunch of guys back yesterday. So I think we just have one guy today that was new. So hopefully we're turning the corner here. Medically, we're doing really well in terms of injuries. I think that's probably our best week we've had in quite some time. So getting this flu thing under control has really been the most difficult thing. In terms of the quarterback situation, you've got, two outstanding quarterbacks there. And look, I mean, we've been down this road before with two quarterbacks. Sims and Yates complement each other really well. Sims is long, athletic. I think he's a game wrecker. I think he's a guy that can open up the game for you, running the football. Very, very dynamic. Yates is a spark. He's a playmaker. I think the thing with him is he gets out on the perimeter. He's very difficult. You got to keep him in the pocket, but he's very game. He's got moxie. Again, he's not, he's not Sims in terms of that explosiveness, but it's a good 1-2 package. So we've got to obviously be prepared for both. And then at the same time, Gibbs, is an outstanding player. You've heard me talk about him earlier. I think he's one of the best players in the ACC.
Tim Priester, you're up next.
Brian, we had a chance to talk to Kurt Heinrich the other day. If you could give us encapsulate.
That's a treat, isn't it? Talking to him.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We're going to miss it. Maybe Donovan can pick up the slack there, but just what he's meant to your defense, because from day one he was involved with it, and then what he's meant to his teammates. Maybe you have a favorite Heinrich story to share. I want to ask you a second question, a little bit off the wall, maybe, but it's senior day, and you might have a couple juniors making their last appearance. Have you ever talked about accommodating somebody like that in any way, or does that go against the spirit of what senior day is?
Yeah, Kurt Heinrich is, first of all, what does he bring? He brings that toughness, that grit, that demeanor of a defensive lineman in terms of, how they go to work every single day. And it's been a standard that now has been part of that legacy at the defensive line that has grown here at Notre Dame. And Kurt's been part of that. He also brings an incredible mentality. Carrying the torch as a captain and as a leader. He's vigilant in the standards that we have set here, the high standards. And so he's going to be, sorely missed both as a captain, a leader, a presence, a personality. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's a throwback in a lot of ways, and you're right. I mean, Donovan is going to be his own person, but that family line and lineage will keep on here at Notre Dame. As it relates to the senior day, it's always an interesting juggling act where, these guys are graduating, but yet still have eligibility remaining. And so what you really want to do is you want to recognize the fact that they may be playing in their last game, but still have left open the opportunity for them if they want to come back, that they certainly can do that. So I think what's most important here is that they're finishing off their opportunity to, potentially get their degree and then whatever happens after that. So this is really awarding those guys that are getting their degree or have used up their eligibility, and then let the rest kind of play out from there. And that's the spirit of it, as you kind of mentioned, Tim. And I think that's the most important thing.
Tim O'Malley is up next. Go ahead.
Coach, just want to ask you about your usage of the three corners. Obviously, moving Ramon Henderson was out of necessity, but you couldn't have done it if you didn't trust the three guys you have there now. The rotation you kind of settled in on, and what you like about them at boundary and field since the flip. I guess it was the Purdue game probably when you made the flip that we saw.
Yeah, well, I think it's the emergence really of Tariq Bracy and his consistency and his play. Playing inside and out. So once you've established the guy that can play inside at nickel and out, that really gives you the ability to set your defense. And so I think it was Tariq Bracy that really kind of helped us begin to move the pieces around for us. And playing with toughness, playing with a consistency, one that, at times, was inconsistent, at points in his career. He's really been a consistent player for us. So I think you really got to point towards Tariq Bracy and his play that's allowed us to really start to move the pieces around in the manner that we've had in the defensive backfield.
Eric Hansen's up next.
Hey, Coach, I got two for you. The first one is about Jack Cohn and Amber Selking. When we were talking to Jack Cohn the other night, he brought up how powerful he felt like that asset was to have a mental performance specialist at Notre Dame. Not to be overly broad here, so that how does maybe she impact the quarterback room? What does she specifically do that helps them? My second part of the question is kind of a follow-up illness question. It just seemed weird to see a season high 7 sacks and Foskey not get one of them. And I'm wondering if he was battling the flu a little bit, or everybody just was kind of imitating him.
So Amber's role is far-reaching. And I think if you look at the quarterbacks in particular, it's decluttering. It's taking away a lot of the noise, if you will, associated with the position, and keeping things a lot simpler. And for Jack, getting that assistance and getting somebody to help him with that has been really helpful for him. Obviously dealing with a lot of the noise earlier in the season and, putting that into perspective for him, I think was really useful and helpful. And Dr. Selking was able to, be very instrumental in getting him through that period of time. So, she has different roles for different players and different units. That one in particular for the quarterbacks is a lot of times decluttering and avoiding a lot of the noise. If you really do a deep dive on the game, Isaiah Foskey was doubled virtually the entire game, which freed up virtually the entire defensive line and having some one-on-one opportunities. So I think this is probably more, Eric, of what you're going to begin to start seeing a little bit more of, with a focus towards Isaiah Foskey and teams overcommitting to him, which is going to open up opportunities for other players.
As a reminder, if you have a question for Coach Kelly, use the raise hand function. We're going to go to Pete Sampson next.
Brian, in the story of the offensive line improving, we've talked about, Jack Cohn getting the ball out quickly, coaching staff figuring out a way to run the offense differently. Joel, Andrew Christopher coming in. Where does Jeff Quinn fit into the improvements there? And where has he sort of found different levers to pull there to help that position grow?
Yeah, I think a veteran coach in this kind of situation is the one that is needed when, all kinds of criticism is being, heaped on a group. I think a coach that's probably not been in it as long as he has would maybe look towards trying to do things that were not consistent with what we're trying to achieve here. And that's patience and sticking with our process. And Jeff was really good at it. He was under a lot of criticism early on, not from me or internally. We knew what was going on, but, the noise is out there, and he stuck with what was most important, and that was continue the developmental process of a young group, one that had a revolving door at left tackle, and one that we really didn't know what our best unit was. We were still evaluating players. So I think veteran experience, been in that position before, been a head coach. I think just having that kind of experience serves you well when things aren't going obviously as well as we wanted to early on. So veteran experience always generally is going to pay off for you if you just stick with, the things that we consider to be the most important, and he should be credited for that.
Matt Freeman's up next.
Hey, Brian, the Doak Walker Award finalists came out the other day, and Kyron wasn't on it. Was that surprising to you given all that he's done for the offense?
Certainly, very surprising. The postseason awards have been, for me over the past 5-6 years, going all the way back to, Quentin Nelson and the Outland Trophy, have been, a myriad of confusing and really not sure, what the criteria is anymore. Look, I am very respectful for all those that have been awarded these trophies and those that have been nominated for them. Our players have seemed to have not been significant in these for some reasons. You look at the schedule that we play, the competition that we play each and every week, that doesn't seem to be a factor. Seems that stats are very, very important. Look, I mean, it is what it is. It's disappointing. Our guys do very well moving forward. And, I'm just not a big believer in how you can not look at, the entirety of your work, who we play, how we play, the consistency of our performance over the longevity, and these guys not be up on these award lists. But we'll just keep playing and look for team awards then.
Tyler Horka is up next.
Hey, Brian, a couple of weeks ago when the first college football playoff rankings were released, I asked, how much you guys look at them, talk about them. Now that we're a couple weeks in, I'm curious, maybe those conversations haven't really spiked in the locker room, but just from your perspective, sitting there at number 8, I'm curious how you see things shaking out, if you guys feel like you're still in a good position. And if you do make it to 11-1, is this, you've had playoff teams in the past, does this one deserve a shot, or is it as good as some of those other teams that you've had?
Well, when you lose a game, you obviously destiny is not necessarily in your hands anymore. So, you just focus on, doing the things that you can do each and every week. And that's really been our focus is, take care of the things that are in front of you. And so this team has been focused week to week. What's important now is beating Georgia Tech. And if we do that, we think you get one step closer. Beat Stanford, you get one step closer. We're in the hunt. We're in the mix. That's what we try to do each and every year. This is about graduating champions and playing for championships. So, we go into late November with a chance to obviously play for a championship. And, we're still on that journey. So let's take care of business this week against Georgia Tech. Reassess the situation. I'm sure we'll be right in there. There's a lot of teams in front of us that got to play each other. So yeah, we feel like let's go beat Georgia Tech and we get one step closer.
Thanks, Coach. That's all the time we have.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Coach, this year, I've really enjoyed watching this team, specifically the way they've developed. You're 9-1 at this point. I'm just curious from your vantage point, what have you liked the most? What's impressed you? And what have you enjoyed about coaching this team?
Well, I think first and foremost is that when you lay a plan out for them, they follow it to the letter. But you got to lay the plan out for them because it's a young team. And that's a great thing as a coach when you know that a young team is going to follow your plan. And the byproduct of that is you get a chance to watch them grow. And I think we all have done that together. We've watched this team get better and better from week to week. And that's fun, to watch a team have some ups and some downs. But at the end of the day, be a better football team in November than they were in September. And that's the growth. That's what we can expect to see moving forward because next year, you're going to have all these guys back next year, and this should be really fun as they continue to grow.
I'm not going to ask you to tell me where you think you should be playing at the end of the regular season. I have my opinion, but no one cares about that. For you, the key in the final 2 regular season games, and then whatever the postseason game is, what's going to be the key for you guys? What will your message be here in the final month?
Stay focused on, what's important right now. And let's not worry about next week or 2 weeks down the road. What's important right now for our team is to stay focused on the process that they've been involved in. And that has really been about their attention to detail. Their detail has been really good, taking care of their job and doing the little things that make them better. When they do that, they're a pretty good football team. So if they stay in the moment, stay focused on that, we're going to be just fine.
Coach, appreciate the time this week and the entire season.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You have been listening to The Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com.